Hello everybody, this is Maniac for Bunks, and today we have a very special haul, but we also have a little story to go along with it, and why I made the haul in the first place. So, in 2005, around Christmas, I met up with my mom's side of the family, and I received a big box of Lego to open. And it wasn't just any box of Lego. This was the 2005 Voparak bundle. This was releasing the three Titan sets, Kitangu, Sidorak, and Rudaka, for that year in one big Mama Jamma box. If I remember correctly, they didn't have inner boxes to that, but I could be wrong about that. But it still had all the instructions to build the figures separately, while also having instructions inside of those books to build them into some combination models, but also had the additional instruction booklet to build the Voparak. That was its own booklet, separate from the rest of them, which is amazing. But with that being said, I don't have all that stuff together anymore. I still have the instruction booklets, I still have the figures, but the figures have been long since taken apart for mock building or just part categorizing or anything else in general. And this was way before I had been into a process of storing Lego sets and breaking them down into pieces, putting those pieces in a bag, and then putting them into a box of similar stuff. Way before that point. So rebuilding those figures has been something I've wanted to do for many years, but was always difficult to do because the parts were integrated into so many other things, or as I like to say, they're in the cosmos of my Lego collection because it's so outstretched and mysterious. So anyways, I've been looking recently to try to find the figures again. Like, oh, maybe I could just buy another copy of them through various means of either Bricklink or eBay or so on. And they've gone up in value quite a bit. And it really depends on the condition of the parts or the completeness of the figures, if it has a box, instructions, whatever's. And I did get Rudaka around $50, maybe $60, if I remember correctly. I'll update details down below if I'm wrong about that. Around September or so of 2021. However, I had also spoken with somebody that I follow on Instagram, BIONICLE, who is also linked down in the description below, and he had a spare copy of Sidorak. He said that he had multiples of him because he gets multiples of Bionicle sets in general. He also gets some on purpose because he wants to recustomize them and make the combination models along with the standard figures, which is very cool. But he had a spare copy of Sidorak with only a couple of pieces missing, and one or two pieces like rearranged. So I was like, okay, that's not bad. Like, he was willing to sell the one off for a good price, which is much better than what I would have found him on eBay and such, complete. And I think there's a little bit that actually inspires me to mod him after receiving him in the mail. So this took place like September 25th, arranging things, and then he said he had to go away for a week. So when we consulted again, it was about October 12th that I received him in the mail, which is totally fine. I'm not worried about that. But just given a time frame of when this happens. So, I've had him now for a couple of months, and here he is. He was already assembled in the mail, and I've only changed like one or two things on him currently. So, the first thing I point the feet downward. One of the feet was actually upside down, which is totally fine. I did not notice for all these months until like minutes before recording this video. So I'm like, okay, I'll just swap that. That's easy. You know, no problem there. Maybe a little bit of difference between the Sidorak feet and placement, like the pins, but I have to look at the instructions because I honestly don't remember, and I don't think it's too jarring. If it was set like that for several months more, I would not have noticed greatly. But as I tilt the camera up, there's a little more differences, which again, I'm totally fine with given that he gave me a good price for it. I respected the fact that he even offered it to me as it was, so this is very helpful on its own. But I do like some of the things that were different from here. So on his left arm is supposed to be a sword that can switch out almost back and forth, which I always loved as a play feature as a kid. However, it is missing one or two pieces in order to properly attach it onto the rest of the arm. And I believe there might be some pieces missing here, but I don't know for sure, and I will just have to go through my bins. Hopefully it's something that's rather common, so I can supplement that. Or try something else with it. And we'll get to that in just a bit. There was a little bit of difference with his other arm, but I will get to that in just a moment. And this one, it's a little bit dusty, which I can always clean up. That's no big deal. I've had dusty Bionicle or Lego in general, and I always just wipe them down or take them apart, wipe them, and then put them back together. I've done that before with the 2008 vehicles. So here, totally fine. But, yeah, let's see. A couple of pins that are missing on the, or a couple of beam pieces missing to those pins along the back, which again, he already showed me in advance. No biggie. Just pointing that out here. I'm mainly pointing this stuff out so that I can remember to find that later if I don't look at the figure for some time, but also to show, hey, this isn't a full review. I would love to do a full review sometime later, but I will have to gather more parts to do that, which is fine. One or two cosmetic things in between the legs. I have to look at the instructions because I can't remember it off the top of my head. I'm just kind of like, I don't remember if it was exactly like that. So the biggest difference about this figure compared to your average set version of him is this arm. Aside from the hook being a different color, like I'm fine with that because I actually like having one of those, which I don't think I have as many as the silver one, so that's cool to have here, and I can always swap those out easily. But the big difference that I noticed is this blade. That blade, originally the part was from Bionicle, but the recolor that is here, melding the black and dark red, was from Exoforce. There was a large, almost Titan-like figure that used that as part of his arm. So having that brought back into Bionicle looks really good here. And this is something that I want to mod with this figure in particular. Like, so very softly, not try to completely rebuild the entire thing, but change a couple things around that might improve based on the original set. I'll still try to complete it as the original set and then try to do the modification sometime later. But this already gives me a great idea. I love that being there. I probably already own the part, but I never would have thought to put it here with Sidorak. He already has a blade as a, defining weapon of him. So having it in the appropriate color actually makes it look better. Yeah, the silver kind of does line up with a couple other parts of the figure, but this is so much silver in one particular spot. It's not as integrated as the other ones are, so I think the black and red is actually a very suitable option, even though it wouldn't have been chronologically available until about a year later, but I digress. The only problem with it being right here is that it actually affects the Sidorak, or the Rituka spinner play function. So you have the claws that can come up, you got the middle piece that can come up, and this is able to spin if you put a whipcord in there, but it blocks right about here to actually get the whipcord all the way through. You could fit it through the mechanism, but it wouldn't have as much torque to it. So that's, something I could always change, which is no big deal. I know that that's not intentionally what it's for, and it's mostly going to be a display piece more than a play thing at this point, so it's not a big deal either way. But it does really offer me some kind of potential here that I can move this blade to the other side, take some other Technic parts here and there, and try to make that extended blade function, but in black and dark red. I think that would actually make the figure a lot more cohesive than it already was. So I'm looking forward to actually completing this figure authentically with the parts that it needed from the original set, but I also want to welcome that opportunity to modify it very softly, just to make it look a little more appealing and possibly improve on its function. I think another area that I would like to modify is the legs, because while this was kind of a nice thing, I didn't own a lot of Titan sets back in the day. I didn't own any of them from 2004. I own the 2003 ones, but they're not as robust as ones later. And even after 2005, I didn't own that many of them. So seeing these, it's like, that's nice, but there are definitely things that could be improved on compared to the leg design that they used back then. So I would try to add a little bit more onto that so it can actually sustain a little bit more weight, maybe like an extra joint or two in there, so that if it gets an arm or a leg moved a different way, I mean, surprisingly, that can hold its pose, but that's very particular. One little move another way and it'll topple over. It's very... Yeah, 2005 had a lot of spindly, very tall figures for the Titans. Ridaka is much taller than I remembered, so that's interesting when I actually got to rebuild that figure. But yeah, this definitely encourages me to try to build up more on this figure to make him feel a little bit more cohesive than I remembered as a kid. And I will continue my journey sometime after to rebuilding those 2005 Titans and getting Voparak together, because they'll be amazing. So stay tuned in March. There will be some really good stuff about that on this channel if you tune in. But once again, I want to thank BIONICLE. I did ask him about the pronunciation of his username, and he said it doesn't really matter. There's just a couple letters changed around from the word Bionicle, so he was okay with however I chose to pronounce it. But I still gave, I still let him know. But yeah, check out BIONICLE on the Instagram page down below if you want to find out more of BIONICLE collecting that he has done, and even ones that he is sending off. So, and even he's built a bunch of combo models, but also recolors of combo models, which is a good idea on its own. I like this guy. He's been inspiring me to do a lot more stuff with BIONICLE that I wouldn't have thought of for a long time. Because recoloring combo models is actually a very clever idea as well. So check them out. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned for more, and I will talk to you later.